these balls could talk, they would walk along the bases and into the fields. If these balls could talk with Mark and John and producer Pete.
Okay.
Welcome to If These Balls Could Talk, where each of us brings forth 5 topics to discuss. This is Mark along with John and Pete, and joining us is our special guest, Mr. Rick Marshall. Welcome to the podcast,
Hi,
Rick.
Hello.
Cheers.
Hello. I am excited to be here.
We're so glad that we finally got you on this show.
Mark seriously wanted you since day one. And I was like, no, chill out. Come on.
Day one. Anyway, how's everyone been? Let's start with you, John.
I like when you start with me. I really need you to go back to the rhymes.
It's in the
Mark.
script. I
need you to go back to the rhymes, Mark. I miss the rhymes.
We don't have time for the rhymes
No,
anymore.
we always have time for rhymes.
You just rhymed when you said we don't have time for rhymes.
Yes, you did.
Those rhymes now.
Shows you how easy it is. Anybody want a peanut?
We are good. Jamie and I have gotten through all the Fast and the Furious movies except for the newest one, and all
Very
the Mission
cool.
Impossible movies as of 20 minutes ago.
Ooh.
And so we're going to start on the Bourne movies, I think, because apparently my daughter likes action. So
Wow.
I'm not going to deny her that.
Well,
And then-
and family.
And family, exactly. It's all about family, right, Rick?
Family.
What about James Bond? Are we going to get in the Bond films?
Bond, maybe. There's a lot of smooching in Bond movies, though.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta watch the smooching still.
Kinda like
Yeah.
description.
You'd have to explain what the joke is about, the characters' names like Octopus.
Right.
Yep.
Pussy galore, yeah.
And
I get it.
pushing a law. Or, Connery liked to smooch. So.
Yes.
Pete, how's things with you? Give us an update on Baby Watch 2023.
Baby Watch
Oh, yeah.
2023.
Baby watch. Ding, 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 ding. Pretty much similar to a couple weeks ago. Not too much is updated, although he is moving a ton, squirming around and punching and kicking already. So there's that. Yeah, no, we're just trying to rush getting the nursery together. It's pretty much there. We got to redo our living room to make it a baby space. So that's kind of the next thing over the next couple of weeks. And accumulating friends and family's stuff and clothes and all that stuff. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You never have enough.
Yep.
You never have enough.
And,
Rick and I want to just throw things at him. Just take it.
yeah, that's fine.
Take.
We should. Let's throw this back to Mark. Mark, how are you doing?
Yeah.
Doing well. Just had a birthday. That's one reason why we had a break. And one of you may have visited me, and we took photographic evidence. Another one may have been photoshopped in to make it look like he was there.
Yeah, poorly photoshopped in, but
It was great.
Was a great picture.
I had
that was a
like-
great picture.
I had like 40 minutes. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna make this look passable.
Pete, we appreciate the things you. I've said it for weeks. We have a Pete, just like Cap has a Hulk. We have a Pete.
Well, I appreciate
The guy in the chair.
That's right. He's the guy in the chair. Exactly.
That's right.
We're all 42 now. We're all Jackie Robinson.
Yeah.
Or
I'm not
and
42,
some.
and Rick is not 42 either. Anyway, you want to get going? Let's go. Let's
all
do
right,
it.
Let's get to know our friend Rick, shall we? Now, Rick, we have been fans of your work for a long time, as we've admirably watched you speak with tons of different celebrities over the years. Now, we thought we'd start the show with how you met the late, great Stan Lee, and maybe your favorite story about the legend. Also, what about any other favorite celebrity conversations that you've had? And I'm personally hoping you mention the cast of Letterkenny.
Forgot about that.
Well, it's I've been very fortunate. Part of my gigs over the years has sort of put me in contact with a lot of people that I admire or am interested in or just love watching their work. It's been great. It's been made for some really, really surreal experiences over the years. Working at MTV News for a chunk of time. I rode the elevator with a lot of amazing people, and and also the cast of the Jersey Shore. But over the years it's been great, and I have been very fortunate to have met and chatted with Stan Lee a bunch of times, to the point where it was I had to sort of pinch myself every now and then, where I would get when I got to the point where I would get a call every now and then, and I'd pick up the phone, and it would be like, Rick Marshall, this is Stan Lee. As if he needed to really like introduce himself.
Yeah.
People, like, and and it was great. We would talk a lot about things that came up, projects he was working on, because he was always had something going on. He was always sort of pitching some sort of project, or he was always seemingly willing to talk about the characters he co-created over the years. And I remember having a great conversation with him during that period where a lot of people were campaigning and hoping to have Donald Glover play Spider-Man years and years ago.
Interesting.
And there was a lot of controversy over that, about whether or not you can have a non-white actor play Spider-Man. And this was Miles Morales had come out at this point, and there was a lot of controversy and a lot of talk all around about whether or not that could ever happen. And it was great because Stan Lee actually gave me a call. At one point, I got a call and we chatted about it for a while, and he had this great story about, he's like, well, that was one of the reasons why, Spider-Man wore a mask, and we really didn't want him to have a full face mask and not like a half face mask or anything like that, so that it could be anybody.
It could be anybody, yeah.
I like
that
that.
was a big thing for him, was like, it could be anybody under the mask. That's what we want. And we want, like, he's in New York City swinging around, and we want everyone to look up and think that they could be Spider-Man. And I thought that was really touching, and
That's
it was
really
something
cool.
that and it's something that I sort of like came back to me. And when Stan Lee passed, I remember that whole conversation coming back to me, and I ended up writing part of it up in an obituary article that I had written just about the fact that was something that'll always stick with me, that like, he was thinking like that long ago, and is also at a time when a lot of people, his age weren't thinking along those lines and wouldn't be open to that type of thing, and he was thinking about that, and I always appreciated that, and that was very surreal. It's funny because there was another Marvel Comics editor back in the day named Rick Marshall, and later, he would always get a little bit like, sort of, we'd meet up in person or we'd talk, and sometimes he'd be like, Rick Marshall, are you related to? I'm like, no, Stan, no.
Different guy.
Yep, and it was great. And then over the years, it's been wonderful. I've met a lot of folks, like the cast of Letterkenny. That was always fun. I think some of my most surreal ones have been the random encounters. Like at one point, I was in a hotel. I just finished doing some interviews for one of the Ghost Rider movies.
Ooh.
And,
Ooh, okay.
The one where he peed in the trailer, or the other one?
Well, one of the Nicolas Cage ones.
Yes.
Nice.
And that's what I'll say. And and I remember sitting waiting for the elevator to leave after doing an interview with the writers of the film, and I just hear this loud yelling, and it's getting louder, and the elevator doors open up at one point, and there's Nick Cage screaming into a phone in front of me, and there was just this pause where he just kind of looks at me and we make eye contact, and I'm like, I'll take the next one. And he just like gives me like a nod, and the doors close, and then I just hear more screaming as I'm like going away. That might be the most Nicolas Cage thing that someone.
That sounds
That's
like the
incredible.
ultimate Nick Cage moment.
Yeah.
That one sticks with you. That's how I imagine him being.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah, it's been wild. Like, and like I said, at points there are very few people over time. I learned to sort of stop really getting sort of fanning out over some people where I might have in the past, but there have been a few that I still got me, like David Tennant. I'm a big Doctor Who fan, and
That's
I
awesome.
David Tennant during his run, and I just remember calling up my now wife at that point after the interview and being breathless about the whole thing and be like, she was shocked because she's like, you don't get like this. I'm like, it was amazing. He's so great. He's just as amazing in person as I hoped he would be, because that's not always the case.
Right.
And
Just so cool and British.
so yeah, it's been fun.
That's great that you can still get starstruck once in a while, especially in the line of work where you're seeing so many celebrities and so much talent just in and out of the building, and that you interact with on a daily basis. Like, it's funny, I just told somebody too, going back to the Stan Lee calling you up. I mentioned that to one of my coworkers. They're like, whoa. I was like, yeah, we got this guy on our podcast tonight.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I really like David Tennant, and he was my favorite villain in the short-lived Netflix MCU universe
Yes.
in
yes.
Jessica Jones. He was so good in Jessica Jones and just so creepy and evil.
That was
and, really just
he was
very believable.
He was great in that.
Yeah, he was the best part of that series, I think.
And he's just such a personable person too. Like he just, I had been interviewing him. I interviewed him at Comic-Con. It's funny actually. Comic-Con's going on now. I interviewed at Comic-Con years ago, and it was during his final run as the Doctor. And that weekend of Comic-Con was also my now wife's birthday. And so I was missing her birthday to be out in San Diego doing these. And I got him, I sort of came up with this idea that I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm going to ask if he'll like just sign something, like, and be like, happy birthday to her. And he actually, like, I end up getting a blank card with, like, you know, a little kitten on the front hanging from a branch, you know, like, hang in there, it's your birthday, and blank inside. And I just asked him, you know, like, hey, would you just mind signing, you know, like, your name and put, like, a happy birthday or something? And he's like, oh, and I told him the whole thing. He grabbed out of my hand and wrote, like, this great message to my wife in it, and he took a picture afterwards. The picture is crazy because you can see that my eyes are wide. I'm like, I can't believe this is happening! But yeah, I think the only other one really was Chuck Norris. Yeah, Chuck Norris was weird for me because I was the only person I've ever started off an interview with being like, I dressed up as you when I was a kid. The character you played, I dressed up as you, sir.
That's amazing. John, you're on mute.
We're at time. So
But that was fantastic.
Very important.
It's all right. Well, we may as well move on then. I thought it'd be kind of cool to talk about your fitness journey and commitment to the Peloton system. If you could take a moment to explain what it does, what made you get one? Are you still
Sounds
using
like a cult when you call it that.
Yeah, the Peloton.
It is a cult.
It is kind of culty. I'm gonna admit it's kind of culty. Like,
yeah, what are you still going on it? And
oh yeah, for
Okay.
sure. Yeah, absolutely. You know, I am not a go to the gym. I've never been able to stick to a go to the gym routine. Just the process of getting changed, going there, doing the thing, and then commuting, you know, getting changed, commuting back. I've always had a problem keeping up with that.
it's a lot of setup. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just a lot of like, yeah, it just takes so much time out of the day. And I really liked the idea of having some way to exercise or do that in the house here. And it was very much one of those, I was one of those many people who was like, pandemic wise, was like, I'm going to do this. But also because they offered a lot of specials during the pandemic, they gave you some good deals to get it. So it was enticing. And yeah, I sort of was like, I'm going to try this. Because I also had hit a weight that like, I'd hit like the heaviest I had been in my life, you know, at one point. And I was like, this is ridiculous. I was getting like winded going upstairs, like, you know, to like going up 2 flights of stairs to the top of our house. I'm like, this isn't good. As someone who used to be fairly athletic,
Right.
this isn't cool. And yeah, and so I sort of took the plunge, and also knowing that if it's something I have to keep paying for, I'm gonna be like guilted into making sure I stay on it. Like I don't want to pay for something I'm not using.
It's true.
So yeah, and so yeah, we got it, and it was great. And I've been doing it, and I lost like, I got down to, I was doing it basically nearly every day for almost 6, 7, 8 months straight, and ended up getting down to like the lowest weight that I'd been since college, like, you know, close
Wow.
Awesome.
to college, which was nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, you know, over time, like, you know, and I basically had a streak going where I was like, but also it got to the point where I was like, if I didn't do it in a day, I'd feel guilty.
Yeah. It
So I had
is
to
a
kind of eat
cult.
back.
No,
There's
I'm
a
just
happy medium.
Does it keep track of your overall mileage? Do you say like, oh, I've biked as far as the Great Wall of China or something like
Well,
that?
I think you'll appreciate this, and that I'm a big fan also of gamifying things like
That's
that.
what I'm getting to.
kidding.
Yes, exactly. And like, you know, it definitely gamifies everything where you can, you know, you unlock, you know, like trophies and this and that, and you know, it'll tell you how long you've gone and what your best weeks were, and you know how much. It got to the point where I bought myself a Fitbit, you know, watch so I could keep track of like heart rate and stuff like this. This was new to me.
Nice.
I was not the sort that normally would have done that. You know, my wife was like, "Who the hell are you?"
Well, Jessie's
yeah.
in great shape, right? And she's always been.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And so, you know, that was the other thing. I got to try to
Got to keep up with it, right? Totally. No, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, that'll keep you both young for, you know, years and years to come. So It's
I haven't added the exercise to my weight loss routine yet, but I'm getting there. I walk a little bit. I have bad knees though, so.
Hey, it's
you're dropping
The
weight
way
too,
biking
though.
works. Do you have It has probably like referral bonuses, right?
I think so. Yes, it does. If you're interested in one,
Figure that stuff out. We'll talk.
Talk after the show.
Yeah.
we're doing a commercial here.
Peloton, not a sponsor.
Not a sponsor,
Not a sponsor.
Yeah, not a sponsor.
Yeah.
but you could be.
Well, everybody can be. We'll take it all. All right. So obviously we saved the most important topic till last. So we of course have to talk about the Dynasty Fantasy Football League that you have been running and that Pete and I have had the pleasure of being long-standing members of. And so currently with 14 teams and a 28-man roster, trading draft picks and making countless assumptions that go wrong, AFQL has required us to learn more than I ever thought about football. And so how many years has it been going on? How did it start? And why do we obsess over the minute details of this game?
Well, that's a lot of questions. Well, I'm going to I'll address them as we go. Let's see. It started in 2005. It started amongst some folks I went to college with, and actually started earlier than 2005 as like one of those normal small Yahoo leagues with just a few of us in it. As those things tend to do sometimes, they fell apart. The person running it wasn't interested in keeping it going, and I was like, try it. I'll get it going. And I am also a fiddler with like that stuff, and I'm gonna change these settings and let's make this more complicated and let's do this and let's do this setting, and eventually it outgrew in terms of league members as well as just the number of settings we wanted to have into it. And I took over in 2005, and we got a trophy at one point, and I've started we now have a trophy that gets a big old trophy that gets engraved with the winners' names every year. And it's wild. We do individual defensive players, and it's funny because it seems complicated to a lot of people who are coming in from the standard sort of Yahoo and redraft leagues. But I'm also in a bunch of other dynasty leagues that are way more complicated. They're like 70, 80-man rosters, full defensive, like you draft cornerbacks and defensive tackles in them, where our league, the AQFL, which is Armchair Quarterback Football League, that was the most original name I could think of.
It's reasonable.
Yeah.
Totally passable.
Yeah. This one's 28 players. You're starting almost as many defensive players as you are offense, but I tried to keep it fairly simple and, at somewhat entry level where, you can kind of come in and learn it as you go. And while there is a curve, it's not a huge curve.
Let's see. Pete and I have been in it for 5 years. I feel finally like I might be competitive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe this year. I thought last year, but no, not last year. Man.
I may or may not have inherited the team that had won the championship the year before and tanked into last place my first year.
Fixed it in 1 year, though, Pete. Come on.
It didn't help that you didn't show up for your first draft.
Well, yeah, we were moving a friend in, and I thought I had auto draft set up right, and it was wrong. It said instead of
Can we discuss who you picked first?
Yeah,
I'd like to talk about
I had a list of do not pick these players, and somehow that turned into pick these players first in the computer. So. Well,
what fumble? Number one.
Not to mention, I had no first round pick, second round pick, and for 3 years out because of moves the previous owner had done, which is whatever. So
sold the farm, the whole farm.
Yeah,
and
so I'm like,
you bought a championship, huh?
So my rule that year was everybody over the age of 30 is gone.
I know, it's smart.
Hey, it's worked for you. I mean, hey,
now,
man.
who did you draft your second year?
Oh yeah, with the 2 first round picks I picked up with trading away my entire team was Pat Mahomes and Alvin Kamara. I think that's a pretty good rock or basis, and I have them for their careers. Although Alvin Kamara's career might end up being in jail the rest of his career.
I was being skeptical, man, and I was like, oh, Pete Mahomes, huh? Who's this Mahomes guy? I mean, that's a pretty ballsy pick, man.
The funniest part was that it was like Buffalo Sports Radio at the time too was like, oh my God, it's been 20 freaking years since we've had a freaking quarterback. Like, you know what? There's this Mahomes guy. He looks pretty good. Like, if I were the Bills right now, I'd just be, you know what? Screw it. I don't care what anybody says. I'm picking Mahomes. That would have been the best move they ever could have made, and they didn't do it.
Hey, and you know what? To your credit, I remember talking to you about that pick, and you were like, I think this guy's going to be good. Yeah. I really do.
And it was because Yep, it was because of one disgruntled, angry radio station guy that said, "Screw it, I'd pick Mahomes." I'm like, Mahomes.
You're like, that sounds great.
Okay.
I'm in. I'll pick him too.
Yep.
Good job,
Like there's
Pete.
picks that we luck into, in certain leagues. You're like, yeah, sure, I meant to pick that guy. I totally knew that guy would be amazing, and that's why I took him. But hey, to your credit, I remember being like, Pete, why'd you pick that guy? Like, no, I think this guy's gonna be really
Rick,
good.
can we talk about your best pick in the last 15 years and your worst?
There you go.
Oh gosh, best pick and worst pick of the years. Gosh, I don't know. My roster has been through so much turnover over the years that it's hard to even nail down. I do remember at one point when I won the championships for a bunch of years in a row, I had Tom Brady for like all but 1 year of his time in our league. And like I said, this league's been going since 2005, so I had Tom Brady since he came into the league and have had him for all but 1 year, in which I traded him away for Colin Kaepernick. And Colin Kaepernick had a great season. It was Colin Kaepernick's exceptionally good season.
The Super Bowl year.
The Super Bowl year, yep.
And then the next season, I traded Colin Kaepernick back for Tom Brady.
Oh, wow.
What a shark.
1 year rental.
That's a shark move.
Yeah.
Unrelent.
It was the great takesy backsy.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was wild. I mean, that was big. I can tell you what my worst pick was, though, of all time.
I need to know.
The entire history of the league, my worst pick was the 1.01, the first pick in the entire draft.
Ooh.
Peyton Hillis.
I don't remember
Madden
that.
That
number
really
one.
worked out.
Oh,
Was
no.
just on Madden. Yeah. I thought he was going to just continue on for another 2 or 3 years, just rumbling, stumbling, and bumbling, and just destroying every person that in his way. And that didn't so much work out.
It's the Madden curse. I got you.
Yeah.
So, I know we're over time, but speaking of the Madden curse, do you know who's on Madden this year, Pete?
Shh.
Because
Quiet.
his name rhymes with Josh Allen.
No, the curse ended when they put John Madden on the cover, and he's already dead.
That's what his name rhymes with.
Shh.
All right, we're good.
Oh
It's
my
fine.
gosh.
Tom Brady, I think, squashed that, and Pat Mahomes actually.
They were jointly on the cover. Although Mahomes did get injured in the subsequent year, but he still won a Super Bowl.
He still won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Are you guys
All
watching
right.
the quarterback show? Sorry, we'll talk about that. I actually didn't bring that up, but it's really good. You should watch it. It's on Netflix.
I've heard
I need to.
it's good.
I'm not watching it. Anyway,
All right.
all right. Shall we get ready, or are we ready to get started?
Let's
One
go.
of these days I'll
You're
learn how
so
to talk.
eloquent, Mark. You're
I
so
know,
good
I
at
know.
radio hosting.
So, I know it's like I've never done this before. Anyway, I'm actually kind of throwing a little loop into this. I was going to talk about one particular topic. Turns out John has it, so I completely changed it to a somewhat breaking news story for our first
Ooh.
topic right today. This just happened a few years ago. The NFL owners unanimously approved the sale of the Washington Commanders to a group led by Josh Harris.
Oh.
The sales price will be $6.05 billion with a B, and it is the largest sale of a sports franchise in this country. So, everyone, what will the effect of the recent sale of the Washington Commanders be?
Less horrible racist news coming out of the Washington football team, hopefully, and not even from the team themselves.
Right.
Dan Snyder is one of the worst people on earth.
It can't get any worse.
Exactly.
I mean, it could.
Like,
It's Washington,
I-
D.C.
Collective level of horrible, just make you shake your head news coming out of Washington, and Washington's NFL feed will just be just marginally less. I mean, I feel like that's enough to hope for.
The only way to go is up, right?
Yeah, right.
It also did come out that he was fined $60 million for the recent lawsuit from one of the cheerleaders. I can't remember what her name is
That's
now, but
actually a significant fine.
however,
should still
that
be
is
more.
1% of the sale price of the Commanders.
Yeah, it should have still been more than that, but it's better than these ticky-tacky, like, you should be charged with murder and put to life sentence. You will receive a $5,000 fine, even though you are worth $1 billion.
Yes.
Right. I mean, $60 million for Dan Snyder is an annoyance, honestly.
Yeah.
Do you think they'll change the name? Do you think the new owners will
Again?
change the name? That's what I've been wondering. Like,
I don't dislike the name, though.
I like it.
It's not the worst.
I like it. It is apt for where they are, and isn't racist, which is really helpful.
Yeah.
I thought they
Not
should have
ri-
kept football team.
Well, that was just stupid.
The Washington football. No, that was fantastic.
I thought they
Yes.
were just being petty for a little while. They're like, well, fuck you guys. We're not changing the name. It's a dude. That's what you get now. You get a stupid name.
Yeah, but I think they could have owned that. It's like, you know what?
Yeah, I like it better than Commanders. I really do.
So we've talked about it on the show, though. I mean, hopefully, all the talent in Washington actually goes somewhere now that they have maybe better management or at least different management.
Yeah. I mean, they're shaping up to have a not bad team with who they have
True.
right now. I kind of like who they have right now. I think Gibson and Brian Robinson are a great tandem.
I'm looking for a really good season from Terry McLaurin.
Terry
since
McLaurin, yep.
Yep.
Rick let me have him last season, so he's on my team now.
Right. Yeah.
That was one of my good picks.
So
I know you
speaking of-
have him now. I traded him to you, but
Yeah, that was good. I like that trade.
Speaking
that
of
was
that,
one I was proud of.
quick aside again, John's got a sneaky good team, man. We got to watch out for him now.
Sneaky good.
Oh yeah, yeah, and yeah. I mean, I think I'm curious to see what Sam Howell does as the QB. Like we've seen so little of him, but
Is he a
everyone
rookie?
he was well, he was rookie last year. He played a little bit.
Okay.
And right near the end, he played a little bit.
Gotcha.
And so we've seen so little of him, but there's so much positive buzz about him where normally at this point, there's a lot of like, well, it's going to be a competition. We're going to see, who's going to be an open competition.
I mean, not for Jacoby Brissett. Jacoby Brissett's just there if he throws his arm out.
No, Jacoby Brissett is a decent starting quarterback. Like
He's-
he's a solid backup.
He
If
is
not,
a dude.
in a lot of respects, I think he should be the starter because he's
Well,
proven himself to be a winner.
Yeah, they have Brissett, but they also had previously like Taylor Heineke, like who was also.
I think they should have kept Taylor Heineke.
He's this wonderfully reliable backup who like can
Yeah.
definitely win you games if necessary.
He's like mini Brett Favre. In fact, Brett Favre was his idol when he was growing up.
Oh,
I
wow.
think that's why he
So
wears
he
number 4.
No
Yeah.
shit. So he just
Yeah.
mimicked his play style and body type after Brett Favre.
Yeah, I know.
I just remember that game last year where they won, and everybody was really surprised at what they were playing. And he came off and he had this big gold chain on, and he just like was this really like kind of tiny like little white kid, and he was just like, "Yeah, I'm awesome. I play football, guys."
Was that like when Fitzmagic was playing on Tampa and like came out and
No, nobody's like Fitzmagic.
that was like
It's magic.
Yeah.
what
He's
wide
one of a
receiver
kind.
was that they borrowed all of his like threads from? That was amazing.
Remember. That's awesome.
That was a long time
I don't know
ago.
who it was now.
It was like a famous wide receiver.
Yeah, it was definitely one of the
This
big
was
wide receivers.
This was like before Mike Evans, right? So
Evans was on the team then, I think.
Oh, yeah,
Was Deshaun Jackson or something?
Yes, that's who it
No.
was.
Yeah.
That's who it
I
was.
think he was still in
Really?
Tampa then, maybe.
Yeah.
I could be
Yep.
I could be mixing him up with somebody else, but it was somebody like that, like like superstar wide receiver in the league that like had all this swag, and somehow Ryan Fitzpatrick just like rocked
Open,
it.
like shirt open
that's
Yeah.
funny.
with a ginger chest.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although you know who's given that Fitzmagic sort of look a run for its money is Joe
Oh,
Burrow.
Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow, yeah.
Yeah.
Joe Burrow's the coolest guy in Cincinnati.
He's
We talked
just-
about that last week.
Yep. He's just Joe Montana 2.0.
He is Joe Montana 2.0.
Exactly.
Well, he's a
Holy
combination.
crap.
He's Joe Montana on the field, but he's like Fitzmagic off the field.
Okay.
I love it when he pops that cigar too after a game. Come on. Who doesn't want to be Joe Burrow when they grow up?
I can't
I
not
wanna
like
be Joe
that guy. Damn it.
You can't not like him. You can't not like him at all. You're
Yeah.
right, by the way. I ended up Googling it because I'm the research department, apparently. Deshaun Jackson. And he looked exactly like Conor McGregor. We did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to derail the topic to
No, it's
to
perfect.
Fitzmagic
This is the
wearing
way the
Deshaun
show,
Jackson's
this is the way the
clothes,
show
but
goes, man.
I will talk about Fitzmagic as much as you want to talk about Fitzmagic because I love that guy.
He's a great gentleman.
He's the best worst quarterback in football.
Yes.
And we're done.
Amazing.
Pete, next topic us. Do it.
Let's get ready to next topic.
Press the button. We got the button for that.
Oh yeah.
We won't have it on the audio.
Yeah. Well, okay, so let's talk about the topic that Mark wants to talk about and we all are
Yeah.
thinking about because it was all over the news all week. Change is on the horizon for the NFL, and that change comes in the drastic left turn in the running back market. And so this past week, no last-minute heroics happened at the franchise tag deadline on Monday regarding contracts for the three big names that remain: Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley, and Tony Pollard. And so these are the top of the 2022 running back class. Jacobs led the whole league in rushing yards at 1653. Saquon Barkley had a career high at 1352 and was number 4. And Pollard led the league in yards per touch at an impressive 5.9. And so what is this dark timeline that we live in, that running back is now a plug-and-play position? How did it happen, and will it ever come back?
This is the dark timeline now, isn't it? At least for running backs.
Well, yeah.
So will it ever come back? I mean, potentially. You have to have kind of a generation-changing player in order to do that. I mean, if you have another Derrick Henry, you might have to have a couple Derrick Henrys to do that.
Well,
now
who play
there's thinking that
effectively well into their 30s on top of being great at the start.
But the other thing is, you have a bunch of young running backs. We've talked about this multiple times. You get them on rookie quarterbacks. I mean, everyone's a buzz about Bijan Robinson. Everyone's a buzz about him.
Mm-hmm.
So you have all of these hugely talented that are NFL capable and ready running backs coming straight out of college. From a business perspective, I mean, it just kind of makes sense. And I mean, you're throwing all this money at quarterbacks, at defensive tackles. I mean, I saw a list today that there's a lot of defensive tackles that are making at least $25 million this year.
Wow.
Can you imagine that?
Jeez.
And wide receivers as well. I mean, all this money's going up. It's got to go down somewhere.
Josh Jacobs, like, how don't you give that man money? It just doesn't make any sense to me.
I think it's the whole long term that they're scared of. I mean, remember the Todd Gurley contract when he was like 14 plus million 5 years against the Rams, and he was just awful after that. And then the Zeke contract too. The Zeke contract
similar
was awful.
thing, right?
So I read
with plug and play, stop with plug and play running backs, where I think it makes sense because we don't have the running backs, with the exception of Derrick Henry. There isn't, I don't think, a single other running back in the entire league who is that singularly talented that can carry an entire team's winning percentage, wins on his back. You can to be honest, you can take Jacobs out, you can take Barkley out, you can take all of those guys out. You can draft or even just trade for several players you would have to pay a whole lot less for. Like right now, Barkley, was asking for, I think it's, something well over whatever the franchise tag, I think, is about 10 million or so. You could easily get Kareem Hunt and Zeke, or Kareem Hunt and Leonard Fournette for almost that same amount on their own, and then you just alternate them back and forth, and you could do that type of thing, and it would be fine in the Giants scheme. It would be fine in most of those schemes.
And how much worse off would they be, right? I don't think much.
Where Derrick Henry comes out of a game, though, and the team's gone. Like, Derrick Henry's out of it, and there's no... You
saw that last year when he got hurt?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's why I think it's just... That's the state of things now, and I think teams are... McVay learned that with Gurley, and, we've seen this with the Patriots for years. They Patriots and a few other teams are great at doing the running back committees. They just keep rotating them in and out, and they have very specific things, and they can, one guy wants to move on somewhere else, he can move on, they find another guy to come in, and they just keep doing their thing.
Next man up.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, totally.
I was reading a stat just recently where they said that the days of just having those 1,000-yard rushers are over. In the last 15 years, there's only been 3 teams that won the Super Bowl who had a 1,000-yard rusher, where in the 15 years before that, 11 of the 15 Super Bowl champions had 1,000-yard rushers on their team. And it's just the way of things now. It's a quarterback league.
I mean, if you think of it in kind of a fantasy perspective, which it's what it kind of turns into, I mean, you have to pick the guy who scores the touchdowns, and the less people are scoring rushing touchdowns, the less important running backs are. Running backs are to eat up the clock and to do something different, right? Because you can't always throw passing routes.
Right.
So you have to
Buffalo?
Right, Buffalo. So you have to be dangerous on the ground. But, I mean, they just don't do that anymore. That's why the slot has become a lot more popular, and why multiple running backs and pass-catching running backs have become a lot more popular. Because the game is different.
Well, Buffalo has its own problems, too, with the fact that their quarterback also likes to run the ball a lot himself. And
very true. No, that's a part of it as well.
That's just what I was going to say, is that we don't need a running back. They have Josh Allen, who has
Still
more
need a
yards.
running back.
Who has more yards and carries than any other running back on the team?
You don't want Josh Allen to keep taking those hits.
No, they don't.
No,
They really
no,
don't.
Jalen Hurts and that crazy like scrum
yeah.
play that
it's,
they do.
it's incredible that Allen hasn't gotten hurt from like the what is it now, like 6 times he's literally hurdled over people.
Yeah.
But I think that actually is another big reason that, and because it's not just Allen, right? Really, like you said, Hurts. You have Justin Fields.
He's so fast, like a gazelle.
Wow. Super good quarterback. That I'm not
I
thinking
love
about
super
the
good
Ravens.
quarterback.
Yeah, super good quarterback.
Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, Lamar
Lamar
Jackson.
Jackson.
I don't know why his name eluded me, but like, right? Your quarterback is now taking a lot of the duties that the bell cow running backs did. And that's becoming more and more prevalent in the league. You're just seeing that model be replicated further and further. I mean, even somebody like
you're
Burrow
running a lot
can-
less.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're running a lot less, and
Right.
you don't need the bell cow anymore.
Yeah.
Well, really, you're just trying not to be predictable because defenses are very, very good.
Sure.
I mean, they always say that the transition from college to NFL is defense, right? You're like, oh,
Yeah.
this team is much better. These guys are much faster.
Or you
I
can have
actually-
wide receiver play running back, Cordarrelle Patterson. It's the beefiest wide receiver you got, and be like, put on some more pounds and get line up here.
Well, isn't that kind of like what Debo Samuel does too? He does a lot of jet sweeps and stuff.
Traylon Burks, all that
Jesus,
stuff.
Debo's fun to watch.
Yeah.
I actually think, just kind of knowing about the business of the NFL a little bit, this is probably the start of things to come. Like, it's starting with the running backs, but I mean, John, you've talked about this before. Getting the most money out of those rookie quarterbacks, this is going to start happening to other positions very, very soon.
Yeah.
Maybe the last one that's going to happen to a quarterback and probably defensive end. Those
Well,
are
they
probably going
found
to be
out
the
how
last two.
how to min max, and it wasn't a coincidence that 3 out of the 4 conference finals teams in last year had rookie quarterbacks. It wasn't a coincidence.
I think a lot of it too.
They know it's a quarterback league.
Yeah.
Like it's the quarterbacks are what sell tickets in most cases. They have to protect the quarterbacks, and the money that maybe would have gone to a running back in the day now is just going to either the quarterback or the people, who are supposed to protect the quarterback and make sure that your quarterback stays upright.
Now, do I think, as a Giants fan, that giving Daniel Jones $40 million was a good idea?
That's why they couldn't give Saquon like 14 or 15, right?
He wants 22.5.
22. Because I know they
He
offered
is
him
Saquon
12.
does?
Yeah, they
Yep,
offered
that's
Saquon
his-
12.
That's his minimum, 22.
12 per year.
Per year?
Last year, and he turned it down.
That's
And
never
he's
been
whi-
done.
and he's whining about it too. He's like,
never been
well,
done.
I mean, I don't want to sit out, but am I ready to sit out? Like,
15 or 16, I could see if you had a quarterback on a very affordable deal, and that running back
shut
was
your
like
mouth.
Derrick
Darren Waller
Henry.
will run the ball. I don't even care.
So
Wow, 22. They could
a lot.
actually sign Dalvin Cook, Kareem Hunt, and Leonard Fournette.
Right?
Yeah,
Like,
well,
it's
right.
so much
Yeah.
money.
For that
You're not-
money, yeah.
You're not
Yeah.
number
Totally.
one, Saquon. I'm sorry.
So-
and we're out of time. But you can finish. Pete,
Do you
'cause
mind if
you're
I
gonna
just
say
have a really quick thing? This
don't
is
mind at
something
all.
I heard on the radio station that I was listening to was an idea of how do we fix it, right? It's obviously, I guess it's a problem. I don't know. We've kind of discussed the league as maybe just evolved naturally to this point, kind of slowly under our noses for the last 20 years. And all of a sudden it's like, oh crap, it's a big problem now. But one of the thoughts that was floated around was like, for the running back position only, do you give them a draft eligibility exemption where they can be drafted sophomore year so that their first contract is up sooner when they're younger and thus are much more appealing? Like, you sign a star running back to their second contract at age 25. That's a lot better than 28 or 29.
I mean, do we
when
wanna
every
be
running
telling-
back statistically in history has fallen off a cliff pretty much, except for with a few exceptions.
Do we
Does-
want to be telling professional athletes not to finish college so they have nothing to do after they get hurt in the NFL?
And
I don't think we
and
do.
would the colleges be willing to say, hell, like, sure, take my superstar player, right? So that's the problem,
Ooh.
right? I don't know how you'd even. I don't know how you get
I mean,
enough
now
people to agree
now
to
college
that.
football is a business too. So I
It
mean,
is.
that it will never fly.
Yeah.
Never.
I think a lot of those backs sadly have to look for, image and likeness, big payouts in college before they even get to the NFL.
Which they can,
They could.
right?
So that was all I wanted to bring up.
Pete, you're so great.
All right, I got a next
What I
topic.
did.
I-
Yeah, you
I think,
do.
I think we've used this one before, but
We use them all.
I'm very
before.
excited.
We have them all.
I'll get the next topic, Gadget. Next topic.
Mark, you're the best, and we have it, and it sounds just like that.
But not the
I'm
cat.
Very excited.
I know
cat
I've used
was
that
new.
one before. All right, so Northwestern University recently has fired their football head coach, Pat Fitzgerald, after allegations of hazing within the program, surfacing after a 6-month investigation. Now, it goes deeper as civil rights attorney Ben Crump has become involved with former players alleging that sexual violence and hazing were rampant. Oof. And even racially motivated. Now, more recently, incidents involving their baseball and softball teams have also come out. So, everyone, what does the Northwestern hazing scandal say about college sports, and does it need more regulation?
So I'm going to jump in really quick on this because I have a very personal connection to this entire one. In that, let's see, my wife and brother-in-law both went to Northwestern and did all of they did college there. My wife did grad school there, and my brother-in-law did undergrad and grad school there. And my brother-in-law is actually
Isn't he still in Chicago?
Yeah, and he's a technical director and has covered Northwestern over the years. He covers Midwest sports out there, and my in-laws have season tickets to Northwestern, so we have gone to many Northwestern games over the years. Very familiar with the team, so I can say that these allegations and this whole story did not come as much of a surprise to a lot of the people, to myself in particular, looking at it. I saw that he, following the team, he's kind of a meathead. And he was a longtime player there. He was just a meathead linebacker there. Great coach, great players coach. But I think this, you get that sort of difference between a players coach and a sort of Belichick style coach, who is not a players coach, a scheme coach, a strategic coach. And he was the ultimate players coach, who was very much a rah-rah meathead sort of thing. And in those environments, that's where stuff like this thrives. And as far as what it says about all of college football, I'm not sure, because there are schools that aren't like this. There are schools that are, and there are schools that are a lot worse than this. Northwestern, to its credit, is still a very academic-based school, and a lot of the alum from there, even the football players, the alum from there, have gone on to have really great careers and do some really brilliant, complicated, things that you don't see a whole lot of NFL players doing after their careers, or a lot of guys from, Miami, for instance, to throw one out there. They do a whole lot of great stuff there. So that is to their credit. But yeah, when it's happening at a school like Northwestern, though, it should raise some red flags. There should be some more sort of, policing of this stuff, some more investigation of this stuff, because if it's going to Northwestern, that's kind of wild, because Northwestern's an academic school. The
NCAA used to lay down penalties for, paying players on the side. And since that's all legal now, the NCAA needs to do something else, right?
Yeah, they need to do something, right?
I mean, I don't think it's that, though, Mark. I think that this speaks to the college experience more than it speaks to the football experience. When you are in an organized group, from our fraternity days, from Rick's fraternity days, and we did not haze, right? But there were
No. You guys
Of course not.
That I knew
there were
of.
still ideas and things that people thought and things that people assumed. And I remember a story where after we had left, somebody got hurt at a party, and it was the whole big thing about what they were doing and when they were doing it and how intoxicated they were when they were doing it. And I mean, in the world, you almost get judged by people's actions that aren't you or aren't your groups, because most people are kind of nuts.
Yeah.
Very much so. Yeah.
That's an understatement.
To be honest, the most surprising thing about the entire story to me was the fact that they did fire Fitzgerald, because he is the poster boy for exactly the sort of coach you want to have in a college program in many ways, in that he went to school there himself, was a star there. Like, he anchored Northwestern's football team as their sort of lead linebacker for years. He was a star there. He's the program hadn't been that great over the years. I mean, their last big player to come out of Northwestern was, I don't know who we got. I remember way back in the day you had a Darnell Autry way back, like when in the 90s, I believe it was. But then you also had, guys like Mike Kafka and a few others who have come out. But they're not known for that stuff. And so here was a coach who not only came to the school but made it better and gave them a really good record, and also was courted by a lot of NFL teams and kept saying, no, I want to stay at Northwestern. Like, that's what a school wants. And then I felt bad for the incoming president at Northwestern, who was there less than a year, and this all happened. And suddenly he's like, wow, I haven't even been here a year yet. Now I have to decide to fire a beloved athletic figure. But yeah.
I mean, he was a scapegoat, right?
Yeah.
Well,
More than likely.
2023, somebody has to be fired, and the coach is a really good person to fire.
Yeah, and from what I understand, there's been some reporting from the Daily Northwestern who did amazing reporting on this, and they're the ones that. It's funny, like it was the school newspaper that broke this story, and
Really?
It was.
That's
Crazy.
It's the Daily Northwestern. That's like they're one of the greatest journalism.
It's
schools.
a really
Oh, okay.
So they've reported that there's also been some issues with a few of the other athletic teams there. So maybe the next one, maybe the athletic director needs to sort of be put on the hot.
Talk about
I was
ethics
going to
in
say,
journalism,
this sounds like
right?
it's higher than just that coach, even.
You go to a D1 school though, and a school that is all about its vision and its spirit and all that stuff, and you hear news like this, and it must have been really difficult to break it. Honestly,
I'm sure it was.
Yeah. Right. It's
especially internally. That blows my mind.
the good old boys club has got a lot of defenses up. It's hard to break that.
Well, and just to be like, well, our school, there's some shit going on, but it's important for me to talk about it. Like, talk about journalism, right?
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's
we're out of
wild.
time.
Yeah, it had been investigated for a while, and nothing happened. And then, Daily Northwestern sort of took it to the next level. Hey, kudos to them.
Yeah.
It's like a movie.
Taking responsibility for their own.
All right. You got any next topics, gentlemen?
I don't.
You don't have any next topics? All right.
There is only blackness.
There is only blackness, just the next topic.
I'm staring into the void.
Void. All right, I'm going to go.
Go for it.
So to keep it on football, between the time he was released in late May and his signing with the Titans, DeAndre Hopkins only visited with two teams, the Titans and the Patriots. And the talk this week has been mainly why the Titans. And so while both teams were willing to pay $15 million in 2023, it seems that the New England deal was much more tied to incentives. And also, if we look at the rosters, there's significantly more competition in New England with Juju Smith-Schuster, Devontae Parker, Kendrick Bourne, and others. So with guaranteed money becoming more and more important, as well as the rise of the value of the wide receiver, do you think D-Hop made the right decision? Does this make Tennessee competitive? And Pete, can you tell us your specific feelings when you learned about it?
I can just say that me and a bunch of guys that went into work who are New England fans, we all just looked at each other and go, Tennessee? Like,
Yeah, it's kind of amazing. He really only had the two options.
Yeah.
At least those are the ones that were reported. But I thoroughly, it did not surprise me that another team outbid the Patriots, just because the way that Belichick he always likes to try to get a deal. Like, he will never pay anyone top dollar.
Yeah.
And he wanted to get like the biggest bang for his buck when it came to D-Hop, I'm sure. Now, if you look at the two rosters, and I may be a little bit biased because I am the Patriots fan, I thought the Patriots roster overall was better than Tennessee. Now, if you want to look at it from a long-term perspective, Tennessee probably has a little bit more on the up, because they have their two young quarterbacks that are potentially, could potentially take off or whatever. And then you do have Derrick Henry. So the fact that a lot of defenses are probably going to put like 7-8 guys in the box, there's going to be plenty of one-on-one opportunities for D-Hop in Tennessee. Probably not necessarily the case in New England, but because they're going to be concentrated on D-Hop primarily. But I don't know. I'm a little sore that he went to Tennessee. I personally don't think that was a better team to go to. I think the Patriots would have been a playoff contender if he went there, and Tennessee I don't see as a playoff team.
See, I would disagree. I think this was actually a really good choice for him because he immediately jumps in as the number one wide receiver.
Right away. First step.
Yeah, there's
He would have
that.
done that no matter where he went, though.
There would have
not in
been
Buffalo.
more of a power struggle, I think, or an
No.
ego struggle with guys like Juju. No, he would have been better than all of them, but there would have been a bit more of an ego sort of competition with Juju and Devontae Parker.
I mean, Juju and Devontae will catch balls next year, even if D-Hop was on the team, and that's less for D-Hop to catch.
And to be honest, I think that the quarterback situation is a lot better in Tennessee than it is in New England. I like Mac Jones, but I don't know if Mac Jones can really feed a guy like like D-Hop as much as would need to be done to really take advantage of his skills, where I think Tannehill is a very underrated quarterback, and the guy they have waiting in the wings is a big-armed gunslinger who that's great too. So either one of them works really well for.
And I mean, that's a good thing to bring up, because is this like the first tool to make Levis successful?
I
I
mean,
don't know if Levis is going to be going right away.
I
But
mean, not right away, but
But-
like you have to build a team out around your first round.
D-Hop is
second round pick.
incredibly dependable in the fact that his contested catch rate is super high. He's
Exactly.
got
I don't think you
crazy
really
good
have to be that
hands,
good of a
catch
quarterback.
radius. Yeah.
I think
Right.
all four of us could quarterback for
Right.
D-Hop.
Like,
We could just throw it up in the air.
Throw it in the general area around D-Hop, and he will come up with an amazing catch.
Exactly.
He may not be as fast as he used to be. Or he was never really a speed receiver.
He was never a speed receiver.
Well, and
He's
to
just
attach
good.
it to what Rick was
Yeah.
talking about, I think it instantly makes Tennessee better, because now
Yeah.
you
Of
don't
course
know
it makes
who
him
to,
better.
but you don't know who to
Preston's
guard, because Derrick Henry's there if
Yeah.
you don't guard the box, and D-Hop is there if you guard against Derrick Henry, and they're both very dangerous. I think he's going to have such a great season.
Yeah,
They
Big
are in
numbers.
they are in a somewhat weaker division too.
Mm.
The AFC South is not the strongest, so
Yeah.
you never know.
It could sneak Tennessee into the division lead there.
I think so too, and I don't think there was any way if he had gone to New England that there would have been another threat on the same level as him. Where when he goes to Tennessee, there's, like you said, it's Derrick Henry and it's Diop. Like it's either way, they're going to stab you, and that's where if they're in New England, like Ramondre Stevenson threat doesn't really hit at that same level. Like I don't feel like that's
Not yet.
and
You're not
I mean,
scared of Ramondre yet, Rick?
when was the last time we had like a New England receiver who was that sort of like
Randy Moss.
Yeah, I was going to
That's
say
what I was
Randy
thinking.
Moss.
Randy Moss? Yeah. And I feel like that was I don't know if that's able to be replicated again without having a Tom Brady, without having
Right.
sort of all the other pieces, without having that the amazing double tight end set they had. Although they have a great one this year, but
They
without
got
having
Gesicki now, so they have two again. Hunter Henry's fine.
Yeah, he's okay.
Gesicki's better than Hunter Henry.
I'm not going to lie with this whole thing though. Like, man, D-Hop, why'd you lead me on?
The Bills were never going to be able to afford him.
Yeah, but
They had like $10 left on the salary cap.
Yeah, but they did restructure a bunch. They freed up enough if he really wanted to go and make them win a Super Bowl. If he wanted to go for that, he would have signed. But he clearly just wanted to get paid as much money as possible, and that's completely fine. You got to do what you got to do. It's not
He was
a long
definitely lying
career.
about winning a championship.
Yeah.
he
So
also wanted to catch
right.
a lot of
just be honest about it.
a lot of like balls and
Right.
and also be a number one. And I think that was going to be an issue at Buffalo.
Oh, yeah.
Well.
Think
Hold
about-
on. I had
If Diggs gets as angry as he did in last year
as far as
about not getting enough targets, can
Yeah,
you
but-
imagine if he has to compete with D-Hop for targets?
So it's funny you say that because, and
It's a good
I
point.
think we mentioned this before the show too a little bit, but the Stephon Diggs' best year ever in his career, and when he was the best receiver yardage wise, at least in the league, was 2020. Cole Beasley also had over 80 catches and over 1,000 yards that season on the Bills.
I
There's
don't think he had over 1,000, but he had close. Yeah, he
It
did. I
was-
don't think he had.
He did
no,
have
it was
about
over
30.
1,000. And Diggs
Was it
had
really?
Diggs had 15 or 1,600 yards, and they both ate.
Check the stats on that.
I know, but
Hey,
so
Pete, did you get past the dividitional round?
Yeah, they went to
Oh.
they were in the
Wait,
AFC
wait,
Championship,
wait.
John. They were in the AFC Championship that year.
But
I
again,
don't
though,
even
that's,
remember. I was just trolling you.
No, they were in the AFC Championship that year.
that's Beasley and the number of targets that you can throw a guy like that. I mean, they don't really throw anybody over. Has he ever thrown a second receiver over 100 targets?
I think Beasley had over 100 targets that year. Yeah.
Did he have one of the years? Because I
He
feel like
must have, yeah.
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 But I mean,
And
they
Diggs
threw a
gets really
ton.
upset if he's not targeted on every pass.
Yeah,
Like,
they never ran in 2020. That's
You
why.
would get sad.
Um,
and we're out of time, guys.
I just wanted to see the fantasy.
He's not done.
Hold on. I had a
I did
fantasy.
ask him to be mad.
I had a fantasy of reliving Andre Reed and James Lofton, the second coming of two Hall of Fame wide receivers, taking
I know,
my
I
team
remember.
to 4 Super Bowls in a row. And I just wanted that to happen with Diggs and
Pete, that was
D-Hop.
30 years ago.
Hey,
John Beebe falling on his head.
yeah, well, there was that too.
Yeah, we end on that.
Yep, done. Can't be better.
All right, is it my turn?
Yeah.
It is your turn, Mark. Would
Okay.
you like to do a next topic, Mark?
Ooh, I'll do next topic.
Oh, excellent, excellent. Very good, very good.
Yeah, yes, Cheerio.
So the NBA wants to make the regular season more exciting, and they have noticed the popularity of tournaments. Therefore, they have decided to institute a World Cup-like in-season tournament that will start in November and end in December. Now, each conference will have 3 groups of 5 teams that face each other within their group once, and then a one-and-done knockout bracket-style round with the 6 group winners and 2 wild cards playing in it. And yes, there will be prizes for the players depending on where their team finishes. So everyone, what do we think of the concept of an in-season tournament for the NBA?
Does
It's
it have
really
a mascot? Does the tournament itself have a mascot?
It
Ooh.
should, right?
I want
Now
a
they-
World Cup level mascot if it's going to be a World Cup style tournament.
And they're calling it the NBA Cup too. I mean, come on, how
Yeah.
more obvious can you? Yes.
Sad panda.
yeah.
I mean,
But
I
yeah,
think it's really,
yeah.
I think it's really stupid. And I think that most of the millionaires who respect their careers will choose not to play because why would you get hurt in a thing that doesn't matter unless they pay them a lot?
Well, this does matter. These are regular season. These are going to count as regular season games.
Oh, okay. So the regular season games are being put into tournament style.
Yep. Yep.
Oh, that's super stupid. That's so stupid.
So you've gone from
It's
stupid
like,
to
oh,
super stupid. Okay.
It's going to be even more stupid than I thought
Oh,
it
it's
was.
so stupid.
It feels very gimmicky, and I confess I am not a NBA fan, so I know very little about. Like,
It's very gimmicky. It's very gimmicky.
yeah.
I think the
last
play-in
time I followed
worked,
was, like
and-
mid '90s Lakers, so I'm out of it with the NBA at the moment.
Right, we
But
can agree that the play-in worked. The play-in was interesting, and it caused a lot of drama, and the Heat made the NBA Finals, and all
that's,
of that.
and that's
was
why the
cool.
NBA wants to take advantage of that. It's like, oh, more and more tournaments. That's what the world needs.
But
Ooh, so it's like March Madness except NBA style. Is that what sort of? I guess because they know that like the only time a lot of people pay attention to college basketball is in March Madness.
I think essentially that's what they're thinking about. Yeah. Now, a player, if they actually win the NBA Cup, they actually get $500,000 each player.
Wow.
So there's an incentive to play.
I mean, how
Now-
do they market this? How do they make more money than a regular season game?
Because they're pumping this up as like a
Is
something
it on
special,
more
so it's
television
probably going
channels?
to be potentially no, but they probably will charge more to see it.
Special jerseys.
Special jerseys.
Here's the
guys.
funny thing too. Oh, the NBA has enough jerseys. They have like 18 jerseys each now. What's very interesting to me about this whole thing is that having this in-season tournament means that teams are going to play a different number of games when the regular season is over. What do you think? What do we think about that?
That's
I would be
weird.
so pissed off if I was in the NBA. That's all broken. No one's thinking about this at all.
Yeah, this seems
They're just
very
thinking about money.
Yeah. I feel like this could be such a good thing if it was done right. And like the NHL All-Star game, like that kind of, at least that seems respectable.
Yeah, but like nobody gives a shit about gimmick games anymore.
I
Nobody
guess
watches the
not.
Pro Bowl. The Pro Bowl has turned into a weird skills contest.
Yeah.
Nobody watches. I forgot the All-Star game was even on, and I like baseball. I asked
in
Mark,
mind-
I was like, "Did the All-Star game happen?" He's like, "It did." I'm like, "Huh." I don't
Keep
care.
in mind, they're not marketing towards us 40-year-old guys.
No,
they're marketing
not.
towards the youngers.
Yeah.
That's a good thing
Um,
to keep in mind, like generally and in so many things. Like
So just do like a
like-
skills competition thing.
Never mind the olds are the ones that can afford to go to games now.
Right.
It's true.
Do something that works better on TikTok then instead. If they're targeting younger people.
By the way, the NHL is also considering an in-season tournament.
Yeah, I should watch what I say.
Yeah, Pete, you just gave them ideas. There's
Oh,
somewhere
no.
there's an exec who's going to overhear that and be like, what if we did?
Larry, I watched If These Balls Could Talk last night, and I got a great idea.
I mean, I'd really like to see Mac.
I got a great idea. See,
Yeah.
No, now Pete has to do
We'll
his.
make millions.
His is wonderful. Well, I want to see Mac McClung do more things, so let's do dunk competitions because Mac McClung is amazing at dunking.
is he even on a roster?
He is not. He is not. The story of Mac
He's
McClung, for Rick who doesn't know, there's this guy who was reasonably good at college and super good at dunking and like a huge vertical, and his name is weird. His name is Mac McClung. And so the Sixers, they gave him a roster slot so he could participate in the slam dunk contest. He's not on the roster.
just
They're amazing. Yes. I didn't realize that whole story, though, about him not being on an actual roster.
That's
Not
until
on an
then.
actual roster.
just a ringer for the slam dunk competition.
No, I mean, they don't get anything for him winning. It was just like the NBA
Oh.
was like, hey, Mac McClung needs to participate. Who wants to give him a job for 6 months?
That's funny.
That's
6
awesome.
months, like 6 hours.
Right. Right.
I love
And it's
that.
awesome. That's an awesome story, right?
Yeah,
You're
I want
signed.
to watch the movie based on that story. I actually kind of want the movie based on that now.
That is kinda-
Somewhere there's an exec
Right.
like we need to make a movie out of this. Who's got a script?
Yes.
That is
Well,
cool.
the one they just did with Adam Sandler, who scouted the foreign players. That movie, by the way, is awesome.
What movie
That
is
a
that again?
Great,
Yeah?
that is a great sports movie.
Is that the one with Kevin Garnett about diamonds?
The one
or
with
is it-
Kevin. No, that's a different sports
Oh,
movie.
that's a
I'm
different
looking-
one.
Hustle,
I'm
right?
looking-
Oh,
Yeah,
he was a
Hustle.
coach. Yeah.
He was a scout.
Oh, okay.
And so he was scouting everywhere, and he wanted to come home. And they're like, "Hey, go this one place." And he found this guy, like this diamond in the rough guy in a Spanish-speaking country. And he was like, "Oh, I mean, this is the next Michael Jordan. He has to play, right?"
Well, I mean, Adam Sandler and dramas are synonymous these days, and Adam Sandler and heart-wrenching, powerful dramas
Right.
are.
How did that happen, by the way?
He evolved.
Oh, he has so much money he can do whatever he wants now.
Yeah, basically.
I mean, he goes from Little Nicky to like, what was the one with the cook? Ah, my brain is so broken right now. That was so good.
With the
Punch
cook.
Drunk Love was the amazing
Punch
sort
Drunk
of.
Love.
Oh,
yes.
Spanglish.
And Spanglish, both those movies, man, they're
I
just
love
so
Spanglish.
wonderful and
I love
romantic.
Spanglish.
And yes, Hustle was the name of the movie with basketball. But then, that same year he did Hoobie Halloween, so who knows? He makes good choices, I think.
He just does what he wants to do.
Yeah, he just does whatever he wants because he's Adam frickin' Sandler.
Well, I mean, I actually thought for a while he just wanted to see how many hot actresses he could make out with, because I mean, he had Salma Hayek, Jennifer Aniston, and just go with. Actually, he's been with Jennifer Aniston for a few movies now.
Queen Latifah and Hustle, guys.
Yeah,
Mhm.
And we're out of time.
Just Go With It, by the way, is one of my all-time favorite guilty pleasure movies with Adam Sandler and Jen Aniston. I love that
I like
movie.
think I remember
50
that
First
one. That
Dates.
was-
That movie is really
50
romantic.
First, oh
too.
yeah,
I
Adam
did
Sandler
like
and Drew
that.
Barrymore
Yep.
can do no wrong.
That was a cute movie. I liked that as a teenager.
Yeah, that movie kicks ass. All right, give me next topic. Do it. Do it now.
Get to the next topic.
Get to the next topic. Do it. Yes.
We're just doing a lot of repeats here.
Yeah.
Hey, it's all good, man. It's the repeat episode, and
We're-
I'm going to probably replace them all
You
anyway.
only have so
it
many
doesn't matter.
ideas.
Let's be honest, I'm not using any of them.
And so to keep it on, even though we didn't talk about movies, we're going to switch to movies. So to keep it on movies, I am really looking forward to Marvel's next cinematic universe project. In the Marvels in November. This film will bring together Captain Marvel, Brie Larson, Miss Marvel, Iman Vellani, and Monica Rambeau, Tiona Paris, who is actually in another cool movie, as we explore what cosmic power has them seemingly linked. It has been announced that Zawe Ashton, who, by the way, is Tom Hiddleston's fiance, has been cast as the movie's villain, Kree revolutionary Dar-Ben, who Rick has to explain to me because I don't know her. Unfortunately, The Marvels has been delayed from the summer to the winter with reports of bad audience scores and the concern of negativity surrounding a female-led film. And so
Sheesh.
are we excited for The Marvels? Who is Dar-Ben? And why is Iman Vellani so fun to watch?
Yes, super excited for the Marvels because everyone
Super
in it
excited.
is amazing. And what was the second question there? Dar-Ben is a throwaway Marvel character who they're just going like they do that and they do great at it. They
Don't
have a
say
good
that.
track
We're supposed to sell the movie.
Well, no, they have a great track record with turning these characters who are just like one or two issue like appearance.
B-list, back page,
Yeah.
cosmic character.
B-list would be giving them a lot of credit. Like I think Darben like maybe appeared in like I'm pretty sure I can count on one hand the amount of issues this character even like appeared
That's
in.
going to be
Oh,
a
wow.
big bad. That's crazy,
And
right?
So yeah, that's what they do, and that's Marvel's great at it. They take these characters that no one really cares about and turn them into characters everyone cares about, and especially the villains. They're wonderful at that. And so yeah, that's Darben. I mean, it'll be whatever character they want to be, because that's the beauty of it too. Is there's so little known about the character that they can do whatever they want. They can script it however they want. They're not gonna have people complaining like, oh, it didn't match up with the comic book version, and
that's a good
whatever.
point, right? They got a lot more freedom.
Yeah, exactly. And it's awesome. And Iman Vellani is amazing. She's just, the reason we love her so much is because she is the character that she plays. She's barely like, this isn't a negative. She's barely acting in that she gets this excited about superhero stuff like personally. Like
I read a story before Miss Marvel came out that she made a bunch of fake Reddit accounts and reverse trolled everyone who was trolling Miss Marvel. I thought that was so cool. She was just like knew enough about comic books to be like really like internet aggressive about it.
That's cool.
created her own Ms. Marvel cosplay before she landed.
She
the
did
role.
do that. Yes.
That's pretty
Is
cool.
amazing.
I think that she is as exciting, as fun to watch as Tom Holland was in Homecoming. I think she is as interesting as that casting, honestly.
It's just authentic. I love the level of authenticity in her, and because the character is sort of like, I can't believe I'm doing this, and she is
Right.
literally
right.
saying, I can't believe I'm doing
Right.
this. Like, the whole role in life, and it comes across in her acting. I can't wait to see her.
The Marvels trailer is really joyous, and it's like because she's just so fun to watch.
Yep, and that's what it is. And I love the first season of Ms. Marvel. Absolutely, I love that Embiggen is now like in the MCU canon as a thing that someone shouts
Yes.
in these things, and it's wonderful. And to the point about them pushing it because of those concerns, yeah, they sometimes will push to do reshoots. Reshoots are totally normal. That happens in everything.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Pete will probably, attest to this as well, because I'm sure, you've experienced this type of thing, and it's going to get negative reaction because of the female leads, because that's the society we are in.
It's just so
yeah.
unfortunate.
Marvel doesn't react to stuff that way.
Yeah.
They're actually really good with that stuff, and they just put it out there and let it speak for itself, because no
I
matter
really
what.
I liked all the project. I mean, Phase 4 and Phase 5 have been a little weak, but it's not because of any of the characters. I think the characters are great. I think that Miss Marvel's great, really, really great. I think She-Hulk was really fun to watch, super interesting and different, and just like speaking, and because She-Hulk is a fourth wall breaker, right? And so speaking to the audience through that and being like, yeah, this is what we're doing, but maybe it's not so great. And that last episode, like, if you guys haven't watched it, watch it. Just all
Spoiler alert.
I have so many Marvel series to catch up on. My God.
Rick, can you explain to the listeners and to Mark and Pete the choice for the change of Miss Marvel's powers?
In terms of her powers,
Yeah.
I was going to ask about this too. So perfect.
they would have had to retroactively adjust a lot of storytelling to make her powers in the movies and the shows the same as they were in the comics, because they involved like a totally different. Her character in the comics came about because of a totally different sequence of events that had been set up for like years in the comics, involving the Kree and the Inhumans, which don't really even exist in any real form in the MCU at this point.
So we got Inhumans in the TV universe before the MCU was a thing, and we got an Inhumans show that nobody watched, which was very good. Black Bolt is in the MCU a little bit, but I agree. I don't think it would have been really hard to retcon.
Yeah, and I love what they did with them. I love the choices they made for the powers, because it also gives it a real cultural roots that I think expands the MCU outside of the sort of very narrow cultural sort of boundaries that it had. I love that it sort of is going into different areas of the world and bringing in powers that come out of these different areas.
Do you have a theory why they're linked, and is it related to the cuffs and a storyline that I'm sure you know about?
I don't know anything about it, and to be honest, I'm liking the idea of going into this one without thinking too hard about it. I want to be surprised because I'm just looking forward to this so much.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Do you foresee a surprise dark ending where suddenly this character that we will later know as Rogue by order of Mystique comes and drains all of Miss Marvel's powers permanently?
That was so nerdy, and I deal with a lot of nerdy stuff. That was impressive.
Pete just really likes to talk about
I really
the
like the
X-Men.
X-Men, so that's like the
Really
one Marvel
likes to
thing
talk
I
about the
actually
X-Men.
know.
Yeah, Marvel has X-Men now, so
Yeah.
This
I
is a
can't wait for
different
that.
Miss Marvel.
Maybe
This is a
that'll-
different Miss Marvel, though. Pete.
Maybe that'll introduce like, you know, here's a teaser for phase
Right? How many Miss
17
Marvels
or
are there?
whatever
Rick?
when they finally get to X-Men.
There are a number of Miss Marvels, and this is not the same
This
one.
is not the same one.
Monica
Okay.
Rambeau was Photon for a while in the
Okay.
comic. She's had a whole bunch of different names, and there's just been a ton of them. And
Gotcha.
the whole Marvel family, much like in the DC side, which is the whole Marvel family in the Marvel universe is very convoluted. You know, in its canon and in its history, and all of those characters. It's like some are aliens, some aren't, some are technology based, some are science based, some are magic based. You know, they're all over, and they just keep inheriting the name, and they're just like, they're all.
I love the highly skilled or I'm a billionaire class of superhero.
Yes,
Right.
yeah.
The-
They always tend to be orphans, which I find weird.
They're all orphans.
it's the Batman thing, man.
Yeah. We're
Yeah,
out of
it's
time.
weird. Like when my kid is like, I want to be Batman, but I'm like, please don't.
Yeah,
I
no.
would be dead.
No, he's a very troubled man.
Yeah, that's funny. That's a good end.
All right, I got a serious topic next.
Okay.
Huh?
So we'll do,
Oh, I have one of those. Yay.
does anyone have a serious next topic?
This is a very serious next topic.
Perfect. I love it.
So the FDA just approved the drug. Oh God, nirsevimab to be given to infants to protect them against the respiratory. I don't know why I do this after I've had some scotch.
Can you repeat the name of the drug, please?
Can you say it more times?
Nirsevimab.
Now 5 times fast.
Nirsevimab. Anyway, it's a shot. It's a shot that helps protect infants against RSV. Now, it's not being touted as a vaccine, as this shot already contains the antibodies needed to fight the disease, while a vaccine prompts the body to create the antibodies itself. Now, later this year, Pfizer may also have a vaccine that can be given to pregnant women so that they can pass on the antibodies to their newborn babies. With the recent pandemic, though, it brought forth a large group of individuals opposed to the COVID-19 vaccines for many reasons. So, everyone, will there be the same anti-vaccine movement as COVID-19 had after the FDA approved this shot?
Yes, there will, and I hope that everyone who opposes it is eventually shown the error of their ways.
See, my friend Rick says that vaccines cause adults, and he is not wrong.
Vaccine cause adults.
He is not wrong.
Yeah.
My favorite shirt.
Right. I mean, for as many drugs in the world, there's as many idiots who don't believe in them. I mean, and there's part of that is a little bit of natural selection. Some people are just stupid.
I feel like we've gone
honestly.
so backwards, though. It's like,
Well, we have.
like 50 years ago, it was like, hey, we got this shit figured out. We were able to prevent like polio and stuff. Like, this is amazing. And now we're like,
Yeah. People are getting measles.
right.
People are getting measles.
So many diseases are coming back. Smallpox.
Right.
Yeah.
Monkeypox.
Measles, and we still have people arguing that the Earth is flat. So I mean, hey, I don't, even know what to say anymore about this stuff. We will absolutely, positively, 100% have a anti whatever it is, whatever you want to classify it as movement when this comes out, and it's going to happen in sports. There's going to be a lot of idiots in sports because of their, position and privilege and lack of awareness and lack of education in a lot of ways, that will also be opposing these things and be making really dumb statements about that will then encourage other people to take up terrible positions on it. And that is the unfortunate truth about these things as they stand right now.
Now, one thing that's probably worth noting a little bit: this won't be mandated like the COVID-19 vaccine was. They at least attempted to do. So maybe the amount of craziness around these is going to be a little bit less because there's more than likely not going to be a mandate surrounding these.
Yeah, you're absolutely 100% correct. There's probably going to be less of it because it's not going to be.
And I mean, less people will just do it in general.
But there's still that that group of people that think that vaccines cause autism.
Yeah,
which was
Even though
completely
that
fake.
doctor got disbarred
And
because he lied.
Didn't even admit. He was like, "Yeah, that wasn't true. I just did it for like the clicks, basically."
And that's not what made news, though.
No, it's not, right?
Those that are educated know about that, but
vaccines cause adults shirt. I love wearing it, and then I love going to. I remember I wore it to a doctor's office for one of my kids' doctor's visits. I actually forgot I had it on. I confess, like it wasn't trying to be like edgy or anything like that. I had been wearing it. Yeah, and I wore it, and the doctor definitely gave me one of those triple takes as we're doing like things like the way the shirt folded. You couldn't quite see that it was vaccines cause something with an A, and like he's like, oh.
So I think that Rick's family and my family we go to the same pediatrician. I think still, unless you guys have moved. And so the guy who used to run that, the first time we were just like, Mel was pregnant and we were scouting doctors. And he was just very honest about it. He's like, listen, we have a schedule of vaccines and things you have to take. And I don't care if you don't follow them, but if you don't, you can't come here.
Yeah.
Well,
I just remember the triple look like at my shirt and me being like, oh, and like straightening it out.
Yeah.
Like, no, seriously, this is a good one. This is a good one.
He used to go to the local elementary schools, and he was very honest about his beliefs. He was like, listen, I'm in charge, and I've been a doctor for a long time, and we have kids with cancer that come here, so you just have to be vaccinated.
Well, I'm looking for a pediatrician, in the near future. So just see.
Well, you're not going to drive down. You're not going to drive down here. And actually, he retired.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah.
Does he recommend anyone near Clifton Park?
People in his. I mean, if you want, it's right by my house. If you want to come down, it's still a great practice. The doctors are all very, very good, very, very knowledgeable. They answer pretty quickly.
Yeah, maybe they can recommend someone with an office a little bit closer. That'd be sweet.
Yeah. I remember those pediatrician interviews. Used to go there. You used to be like, so, tell me about your practice. And it was just the weirdest thing because they're doctors and you're like this person who doesn't understand anything about anything. And you're trying to make an educated guess about a thing you don't get. And you're like, I guess this is good. But I like that talk. That talk is actually the reason we picked them.
Solid.
We can move on.
It's very definitive right
We're
there.
done. We can move on.
That's it.
We got 4 minutes, there. Mark. That was pretty good.
Yeah.
Made up a little bit of
So
time.
I don't have a lot, or actually first, do we have a next topic? I do not. But it's okay.
Just go.
All right, I'm just going to do it. So I don't have a lot of depressing topics, but I have one serious one. And so I've been intently following the $75 billion merger between Microsoft and Activision Blizzard as it creeps towards the finish line at a glacial pace. I am personally very excited for this merger, not only because I will make a reasonable profit from it, but because I think it gives major financial backing to one of the historically best game developers out there and fixes them because they're kind of a train wreck right now.
They're very broken.
Very broken. And so the FTC, as well as trade and antitrust organizations around the world, does not feel the same way I do until very recently, when a U.S. district court denied the FTC's most recent request for preliminary injunction to stop the merger from happening. And so, what are our thoughts about monopolies in the gaming industry, the fairness of the Activision Blizzard Microsoft merger, and how does this deal and many like it get us close to a centralized cloud gaming future?
Can you repeat that number again? How big the merger is?
$75 billion.
I can't even comprehend that
It is
number.
the biggest tech merger ever. And
it's got to be the biggest merger of any kind.
I mean, Activision Blizzard is a giant company. And the problem that a lot of game industry, or like especially Sony, is having is Activision owns Call of Duty, which is probably the biggest shooter in the whole world.
I mean, that's 12 times the amount of the Washington Commander sale. Think about that.
Yeah, right.
I mean, they have so many properties, and they own random things like Candy Crush. Activision Blizzard owns Candy Crush. And really, Microsoft is in a process right now of changing the way gaming works. This is the reason I bring up cloud gaming. And they want to own everything so that they have licenses for everything, so that they can offer
intellectual property.
They can offer everything on Game Pass over the cloud for a monthly cost. which
They got their hands touching everything.
Honestly, is brilliant, right? That's what you're supposed to do.
Buy an Xbox.
Right. Everybody buy an Xbox. That's what they're saying.
PlayStation. I like my PlayStation. I haven't owned an Xbox since I think maybe the 360. Yeah, I think 360.
Well, what's cool
well, you may
about
not have
cloud
to,
gaming,
though,
Rick, is
eventually.
you don't need to.
Yeah, it may be an app on your smart TV pretty
Right.
soon.
It is an app on your smart TV.
Yeah, right. Yeah, just play over the
Game
cloud,
Pass over a Bluetooth, on a Bluetooth controller connected to my Samsung TV.
And you got
And
access
that's
to like
The whole library.
hundreds
Just
of games.
download
yeah.
the Microsoft app, and you have hundreds of games.
Probably have to have a really good TV.
No,
So, down the road.
no, it just has the
just
app.
one with a good internet connection. Like
You need to have good internet. The
Yeah.
internet itself is concurrent. Depending on if you want to play like me or play like Pete, anywhere from 4 to 30 megs just in your pipe.
and that's still not going to come close to looking as good as a native picture, but it is getting better.
Now, cool parts about this, right? Cool parts about cloud gaming. A, you don't have to download the game. You just play right away. Just turn it on, and you're good. Cloud saves. You never run out of space on your console. They sold cloud gaming to me when Google tried with Stadia. You can do cool things like heads-up displays and be a general in a shooter where you can see everyone's screen at the same time. Just a lot of things that sound very good.
Well, it's
So where
just-
does the money come from?
Yeah.
Licensing.
Yeah, licensing, and because they're not going to make that much on subscriptions, I'm guessing.
I mean, if everyone has a Game Pass subscription at $14.99 a month,
I feel like you get into a weird territory there too, because when you start limiting things to only the people who have really good internet, you're really going to start limiting
Ooh,
your audience significantly, because I know quite a few people who don't game as much online because in their region you just can't. Like, I know a lot of folks up in some certain areas of Canada that I game with periodically, and they have periods where they're like, yeah, no, I can't go on. Like, we can't do multiplayer today. Sorry, like my internet's wonky. Like, and it's not a function of their tech or anything like that. It's just where they're located in a more remote area. Their internet is never as it's periodically not as reliable as ours, and a lot of places in the US as well. I feel like you really start limiting things when you go to make it reliant on a really, really good high-speed internet connection, because there are so many areas that are so underserved with internet.
I like to speak of quality in gaming in the Pete versus I realm, right? So, and this just because Pete has a better eye for quality and picture and audio and just the whole thing, because it's what he does.
My job.
To play like Pete wants to, you need a big internet connection, but it actually does very well pared down. It just makes the picture less good. And it does it automatically. It doesn't ask. So its job is not to keep you at a good picture. Its job is to keep you at 30 frames a second, which is as fast as the eye can see, right?
I'd argue
Yes, this is what I'm talking about. You just know it better.
difference in
But what I'm-
60 to 120
it's-
hertz is pretty dramatic when you see it. You can't unsee it once you get used to it.
Well, I can't
Also-
see it, Pete. So
Well, from a business perspective, too, I don't think big corporations really care about those areas that don't have good internet, because they tend to have lower populations, and the one that have bigger
I'm going
populations
to tell you,
tend to have the better internet.
an interesting related story. I went on vacation, not this July, last July, to Maine, in the middle of nowhere, right next to a lake. It was beautiful, really fun trip. And we got there, and I was like, the internet's going to suck. And I got there, and the internet was great, just great, like 100 by 100 concurrent.
Well, Maine still has cities.
We were not in a city at all.
Northern Maine doesn't
Literally
really.
on the
Well,
other
Portland,
side of a
but that's
mountain,
it.
40 miles away. And I was like, wonder how this is happening. And I walked around, I saw satellite. And not to talk up Crazy Pants McGee, Elon Musk, but Starlink is really, really fucking cool. It's really cool. It just is. It's good concurrent internet, cheap, from the sky.
All I heard was you love Elon.
I just shut up.
Elon fanboy over here. Look at this guy.
I like technology.
On top of that, too, outside of even the internet aspect of things, I do have a bit of a worry whenever you get to this consolidation of like companies and things like that, because, well, it's in the gaming industry, an industry that, let's just say, doesn't have the greatest like doesn't have the greatest sort of a reputation for treating its employees well, in terms of crunch and all of the sort of things that go into creating games. And then the bigger the company and the more distant the people are from the top of the top of the company, the the more likely it is that there's going to be a lot worse sort of treatment of people at the bottom. And that worries me whenever you have these large consolidation of things. You've seen it in the media all the time. I mean, I've seen it in the media. Like every time a large company buys a bunch of smaller media companies, the people in those smaller media companies are just in for a very bad time. Like there's a worse time than they were experiencing. It never works out positively.
I'd argue that already happened to poor Blizzard when Activision took them, So
I'd agree.
They've already become that. Oh,
Yeah.
hello.
Do we have a visitor?
We have a JoJo on the screen.
Hey, JoJo.
Pay no attention to the dog on the screen.
You not pay attention to that pup.
He's so adorable.
I think for Activision Blizzard specifically, they're having internal struggles. They're having social issues. They're having sexual harassment issues and racism issues, and they're having a lot of issues. And they went from a very small, agile, very well-run company
Passionate company.
to this behemoth that they are now, where, I mean, everything is about the buck. And I read today that they are finally starting to notice that daily active users are just significantly down in Overwatch 2 because they monetized it. They're just not making great games anymore, and they have this library that I love, like actually love this library, because it's just been the games I played for 20 years, and so I am hopeful.
There's even recent controversy with Diablo 4, which just launched, and it got launched pretty praised, like people praising it. It was a really good game.
It's really fun.
There's this big controversial patch that just came out that basically just, everybody's saying it just nerfs everything to the ground. It's
been out for a day, Pete. I think that's just the internet being the internet.
Well, I mean, they may have some valid arguments where it just seems that like every single thing they did is very pointed towards forcing all the players to slowly go over to the seasonal content.
They already
where
backtracked
they see
on it a little bit. They already backtracked on
it
it a lot, by the way. They already took away level requirements and a bunch of other things. They're
that
like, nah, we don't want to do that.
The smallest part of it.
The way of things now in everything. I mean, Destiny's sort of done the same thing in a lot of ways. Bungie's done the same thing with Destiny, and that's the way of things when pushing people towards the season, the pay content, the monetizing of the things. I feel like that's just going to be the way it goes with a lot of big games down the road. I think that's just going to be the new norm for a lot of franchises.
And we should stop.
It's good discussion.
We should stop. We're very much over, but it was going very well.
It was.
Very well indeed.
I like it. Yeah. No, you can tell, audience, we can talk about this all day.
All day.
For sure.
Give me next topic, Pete. Do it. Do it now.
The next topic.
Nice.
Let me see if I can have my dog make it sound like he's talking right now. Anyway, now it's time. All right, I actually have to go to the mic. All right, now it's time for my favorite segment, 10 quick shots to your balls, where I ask 10 quick fire questions that everyone will give their first impression to. Yes. Is everyone ready?
Whoa.
I'm so excited.
All right, we're going to try and actually keep this within our time. So
we are never going to do it, but that's fine.
All right, first question. Will the Jets and Aaron Rodgers make for good TV on Hard Knocks?
Yes.
Yes.
Really?
Reluctantly.
Aaron Rodgers does not want to be on Hard Knocks.
Oh no, they're gonna hate. They're gonna hate every second of it.
Lying,
and that's why it's gonna be good TV.
Because he's the worst human being in the world.
Oh, he's such a garbage human.
Good TV, but I will hate every minute of it.
Great hate watching TV, right?
Yeah.
Just watch quarterbacks on Netflix.
All right,
not a sponsor.
Is it fair or foul that NBA players can essentially demand a trade and where they get traded to? Damian Lillard wants to go to Miami, and that's the only team that he will accept the trade to.
I mean, I think that's stupid.
Isn't it?
But I don't know.
They paid him a boatload of money.
I think that they should be somewhat in charge of their own destiny. They're humans, right?
And the NBA seems to be the only league that allows this, though.
What'd you say, Rick?
Well, they're not really the only. I mean, think about it. Eli Manning, man. Eli Manning deciding that he's like, I am not going to San Diego.
Oh, I remember that.
That's
Yeah,
true.
yeah.
That's true.
Right.
That's true.
I mean,
All
think
right.
about it. If you're a big enough player, you can do whatever you want.
Yep.
All right. Is it fair or foul for Victor Wembanyama not to play in the FIBA World Cup and for Marlins Yuri Perez to lighten workload when they are so young?
I feel like give him as much experience as possible. Sorry, what would you say, Rick? Very,
He doesn't know
very,
about the
very
NBA.
tall man.
I mean,
Very
don't break
tall
your
man.
toy. Just don't break your toy before it's time to play with it.
You think so? I don't know.
Yeah. He needs to gain that 50 pounds and learn how to play in America first. I mean, the man is still 198 pounds. He's gonna get killed before he even plays a basketball game.
7'5", right? Something like that.
And growing.
And under 200 pounds. Think about that. So yeah,
Mark.
Sorry, I had to put the dog down. He was shaking. What are Belichick and Popovich waiting for to finally retire?
stubborn.
Belichick's
Right?
gonna have to be dragged out of there. He's gonna be dragged out of there, like fighting. He's gonna be dragged out of there by his sleeveless hoodie.
I'm pretty sure he's gonna die at Gillette Stadium, like probably during a game.
in the middle of the game. Yeah.
I think Popovich stayed for Wembanyama. I really think he did.
Oh, he absolutely stayed. He signed a 5-year extension very
I think
recently.
he knew that was happening, and he wanted to. In just the, I mean, you gotta love the sport you coach, especially when you're those guys. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
some of the greatest coaches that have ever played in their respective sports is Belichick and Popovich, right?
Hey,
And
wait,
so-
isn't Pete Carroll older than Belichick?
I don't know.
He's still coaching, right?
He doesn't look as old.
It's because
Yeah,
he's,
so he doesn't look it.
he's in his 70s.
So if you had something like Wembanyama coming, you knew it was coming, and you loved basketball, you'd stay.
At least for a couple
Everybody would
years,
stay.
sure. Yeah, why not?
Everybody would stay.
Have some fun
All right.
with it for the end of your
Next
career.
one. What do we think? What do we think of what? We got to move on.
Stop
What do we
interrupting
think-
our guest, Mark.
What do we think of Threads?
I downloaded it and I haven't opened it yet. I apologize.
I care about it as much as I cared about Twitter, which is very little. I don't think I'm a good reference frame.
I
for-
will try it. I've been lazy.
I think
Rick, have you tried it at all?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've tried it. It's okay. I mean, it's not that much different. And to be honest, I've been sort of distancing myself a bit from social media lately, anyways. So because it's just gotten so horrible, and I'm sort of waiting for the dust to settle and trying to figure out which one to go
Right.
with. So I'm not really committing myself to any of them.
It's not a bad idea.
I didn't want to go to Threads. John peer pressured me into it.
Hmm.
We need to be everywhere.
You should always go. I think it's worth going on to because it has a lot behind it, and with the Instagram connection is huge.
Yeah.
No,
Of
that's
any
true.
of the new ones that popped up, that's probably the one that's most likely going to rise.
Well, and in a general
Yeah.
thought process, right? Always get behind the angry smart people, because all those people got fired and they were like, wow, we can just write a new one and we'll do it the way we want because Zuck will let us, and it's going to just be better. And I think it's better. I just don't really care about instant social media like Twitter and Threads and Mastodon. I never really cared that much.
It doesn't take much to get better than Twitter right now, with the way it's gone downhill.
Is just huge for Threads too, because to be honest, while maybe the four of us might not use it as much, Instagram is like massive, and the fact that it's so tied to Threads is huge.
I mean, you just
For
watch.
sure.
Does Zuck talk about it? It has more users every day. Its daily active users are very high. It's very, very, very successful. It's doing very well.
All right, this next question is for John and Rick. What do we now know about parenting that we wish we knew when we were younger?
Ooh.
Do you want to go first, Rick?
Oh, you please. I have to.
I always have something to say. I between now and 2012, right? So where we were and where we are, I think that it is both harder than I ever imagined and more rewarding than I ever imagined, but also don't sweat the small stuff. Don't freak out over whether or not your kid is napping 8 hours a day. Don't freak out whether or not they're speaking at 1 and walking at 1, and just don't freak out about milestones, because I had a doctor, a pediatrician for Jamie, very early on that said there's as many ways to feed children as there are children, and that was just about our struggles with feeding and all the things. And she was on soy formula and she had reflux and there's all these things that were going on, right? And we were citing the small stuff. And at the end of the day, she was eating and she was fine and she was healthy. And I don't know if she was happy, but
Seems
that's
happy
that's
enough.
where you get then versus now, right? This
yeah.
is what we're talking about. I think
And we're out of time, John. Thank you. No, just kidding.
Rick still has to talk. We're not out of time ever. We've been past 5 minutes for a while, and then
Well, if you want my sort of thing that I would just add is the thing that I wish I knew, that I know now that I wish I had known earlier, was just how much my mother was winging it back in the day with me. Because as a parent, like, you think that the adults know what they're doing and that they are totally like, they know what they're doing. They've got your best interest. They are like confident and got everything together and know what they should be doing. And now, as a parent myself, I'm realizing, and after talking to my mom like at length about things, like, realizing how much they were winging it and how much more, I wish how much less sort of stress I wish I caused them, knowing now that they were, my mom was winging it as much as my wife and I are winging it, right now with our kids. Sometimes, like, there is that feeling of, I can't believe people trust me to raise this human.
I mean, just imagine the reference frame of a child, right? You have this person who everything they've ever said is correct, and your limited knowledge of the world makes you believe that everything they say is definitely correct, right? Law, like from the mouth of God almost, right? And so imagine, as they learn, they continue to think that they know everything about everything. That's another thing that I wish I knew. They know everything about everything. And so you still continuously teach them what is real and what isn't. And so it's an incredibly, incredibly difficult responsibility when you're thinking about it that way. But for their perspective, you're definitely right about everything. You just know it.
Yeah.
All right,
Good luck. Good luck,
Next
Pete.
question. Yes, that may have been for Pete's benefit.
Yeah.
When will the price of a ticket to a sporting event or concert become too much for you?
Already too much.
Yeah,
for
that
me.
happened.
I
years
actually
ago.
kind of agree with that.
Next question.
So, my brother Brian, for a while, had season tickets to the Jets. And
Wow.
the tickets weren't that much. And my brother, for a while, was making a lot of money, and he still is. But he gave them up because they forced him to buy the ticket licensing
the
for
PSL.
MetLife. $10,000 per. And you still had to buy parking. So literally 4 tickets. It was a $50,000 cost every single year.
And it's the Jets.
It's too expensive already.
I thought that was a
And
one-time thing to
TVs have
secure
gotten
your.
so good now. Like, TVs have gotten so good now that I prefer to watch most of the time. Like, it's not like if back in the day you'd pay to go to a live game because otherwise you had to watch it on this tiny little tube TV and look really close at it. Now, like, if I've seen your TV. I would rather watch sports on your television.
You should
any day of the week.
should hear his speakers. Right?
Well, we still got to get like the broadcast themselves to be native 4K HDR, but they'll get there.
Oh, they're getting there. They're getting there. All right, next question. Who is your all-time favorite villain?
Ooh.
Wow, that's
All right, I'll give you mine. Lex Luthor and Joker. Those are my 2 all-time favorite villains.
Going the DC route.
I am going
Classics,
DC.
though.
I am going DC. I've also been watching a lot of Batman the Animated Series lately.
Ooh, it's good.
And I
good
love the
cartoon.
Joker in Batman the Animated Series.
It's Mark Hamill voices him, right?
I gotta say,
I think so, yeah.
probably Magneto.
You took mine.
Yeah,
And
Pete, you love Magneto.
If it's
We're just-
not a Marvel superhero answer, but a movie answer, probably Hans Gruber.
Oh, Die Hard.
Those are probably very high on my list.
Rick, Pete, anything off the top of your head?
I can't think of anyone specific, but the villains
Magneto,
that
you can answer
Aside from
too.
Magneto.
the ones that truly believe they're doing the right thing and
Like
they're just
Thanos.
misguided.
Like Thanos.
Misguided. Yeah. But like a very three-dimensional villain.
Yeah, wow, that is a really tough one because villains tend to be my favorite part of almost every sort of hero villains.
You love a good villain, right? That's
Yeah.
what makes a good story.
Actors who really throw themselves into a villain. Oh man, it's so great. And there's so many films and shows where I'm like, I like the villain better than any of the heroes. And
Agent Smith.
yeah, they're amazing. That's a great one right there. But I also love if going back to like when I was a child, my favorite villain was always Megatron. But big Transformers fan.
Yeah.
That's a good answer.
Yes, Megatron was just mainly because I love the voices. I love the voices of all the characters in the original, Transformers movie and Transformers shows and things like that. Those are just such iconic voices. I love those, and like the voices of guys like that. I still give me shivers, like Mumra from the Thundercats and things like that when I was a kid. All these characters that have iconic voices. I love a good villain voice that like sells the villain, and those are great. And then you have so many. You were absolutely correct about villains like Hans Gruber. They're wonderful as well. Yeah, it's hard for me to nail down one because there's just been so many that I've absolutely loved.
All right, moving on. With CBS airing old episodes of Yellowstone due to the writers and actors on strike, what other shows would we like to see on TV again?
Like reruns?
Yeah.
Oh.
My content memory is so weird that when I watch a show that I've seen before, I'm really not very invested, and it's because I remember a lot of it as I'm watching it, and so like I can't just like you like to, and like Melanie really likes to just like sit down and watch a show like over and over and over and over and over again. There's like not a lot of shows that I like that I watch.
And I'm a cord cutter, so I don't actually have any like channels. So for me, TV, you can always watch most shows over again because I have all the streaming services and I have zero of the actual television channels. So it's never been a case where like I'm like, oh, they're gonna put that back on the air or whatever you want to refer to it as these days.
I was going to say,
So Rick, is there a show in your house that you guys watch over and over again?
Not for the most part, although we have watched Ted Lasso a few times over, and I have watched...
I've yet to rewatch Ted Lasso. I mean, I've watched all through.
It plays well multiple times.
Usually if I rewatch something, it's because I had to watch it to do a review, so I watched it on my own.
Okay. And
then I knew that my wife or kids would love this show, and so then I watch it again with them. But yeah, we watched a few things like that, a couple of times. Yeah, there's been a few of them that I've watched a few times, but for the most part, not too many things.
I would say The Office is one that Steph and I always go back to, and that's one of those shows where when you see it on TV, we just have to finish watching the whole episode. But what's the last great epic like truly network TV show that you can remember? Like I'm thinking of Lost.
Network's terrible,
but that was 20 years ago. And nobody liked the ending. I like the ending of that.
Office, Parks and Rec. I mean, those are the two that.
Yeah,
come
Parks and
on
Rec was
mind.
great too. Yeah.
And then How I Met Your Mother. I love that one.
That show doesn't hold up, Mark.
Shut up.
It's not good anymore.
They have How I Met Your Father now.
It might not have ever been good.
Last question.
I think they were good episodes.
My comfort show though is still the IT Crowd is actually my comfort show.
Oh, that is a good one.
That
is a good one. That is
anytime it'll always cheer me up.
All right. Final question. What sport that we discussed? What sport should we discuss during our next episode that we have yet to discuss?
Curling or pole vaulting as a track and field event.
Pole vault. That's true. We talked a lot about running when Oak was on, but not pole vaulting.
I think curling is really good.
Curling?
Or pickleball will go in the trend.
Ooh. American or Ninja Warrior.
That's not a sport.
Sure it is.
Ninja Warrior is a sport. Ninja Warrior, that sounds cool too.
You're not the sport. All right, that's it. We're way over.
Mark, that was great. That was like
fantastic,
10 minutes,
though. I love that.
They're always 10 minutes. I can't make them less than 10 minutes for some reason.
10 questions, 10 minutes.
No, but it's all good. You could lower the questions, but that's not as fun.
Then it's not 10 quick shots to your balls.
I love that. I love that topic. You haven't done that forever.
I know. It's been a while.
Ever.
Your balls isn't even intimidating. I mean, most people. Fine.
I love when you kick me in the balls, Mark.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. All right, John, what do we got next?
It's the final topic.
Oh, yeah.
By the way, I heard that song on the radio the other day, and all I heard was us singing Final Topic, not Final Countdown on the radio.
That is amazing, and I love it.
Is that a truth fact?
That definitely is a truth fact.
Did you see the video that I posted on our thing about the Flopatron creating the Final Countdown? So some dude has like a giant tower of like hundreds of floppy drives and some old printers and a few like old hard drives that he has open, and somehow he's made it so where he runs on a single floppy disk, he puts it into a computer and makes all of these drives mechanically, 100% mechanically, perfectly reproduce all these pop songs.
That's
It's
amazing.
super cool. So I found one of the Final Countdown, and it's like they did the guitar solo on one of the printers. Like, it was amazing.
I admire so much that level of obsessive, like
Yes.
compulsive sort of. I don't even want to call it nerdery, but like obsessive compulsiveness, where like I can do this and I'm going to make this happen.
Yeah, it's so cool. I don't know how the hell they do it, but anyway.
All right, let's get this done.
Yeah.
Do you guys want football or baseball?
I don't
I
know.
don't even know.
We haven't talked about baseball really.
All right, we'll
I
talk
don't know.
about
Rick, do you know about baseball?
I haven't played fantasy baseball in quite a while, so that was usually what kept me in
Well, you
touch
know what?
with,
Let's
baseball.
talk about baseball because it'll make me really sad.
Oh, he's talking about the Yankees.
Uh-oh.
And so, in a difficult effort to be an unbiased reporter, let's take another moment to talk about how bad the Yankees are.
Wait.
So it's certainly not an A's or Royal level. Last place at 50-46 when I wrote this, but I think 50-47 now gets you last in the American League East. And the problem, however, is the Yankees are lifeless after the break, getting just 2 hits and falling to 1-4 since the All-Star break. This has prompted an in-season coaching change, replacing Dylan Lawson as the hitting coach, which is the first in-season change that the Yankees have done in, get this, 25 years.
Wow.
And so
Wow.
with the league's second highest roster, with the league's second highest roster, I'm going to start over, with the league's highest roster salaries in the Yankees and Mets, and both of them struggling to survive, and small market teams continuing to be successful in the Rays and the Pirates, is baseball changing? Or is the Yankees' most recent playoff window just simply nearing a close?
I mean, small market teams are definitely dominating this year. And you know who actually just recently overtook the Rays in the first place of the AL East? The Baltimore Orioles.
What is going on with the world, Mark?
What is going on?
What is going on?
First time since, I think I saw this, I think it was since 2016 that they've
darkest
ever been in
timeline.
first place.
Wow.
So do I think that that era of the, overpaying for baseball players is over? We've talked about this before. Of course it's not over. But maybe they just need to be a little smarter with their money. Maybe they shouldn't. Maybe the Mets shouldn't give $30 million a year to a bunch of 40-year-old pitchers. Maybe the Yankees shouldn't give $200 million to a guy that's barely thrown a full season in the Major League Baseball.
That's rough. Rodon is rough. That hurt.
I mean, let's be smart here, okay? I mean, they're supposed to use analytics, right? And like, is analytics really telling them to make all these moves? I don't think so.
Oh, I doubt it.
And just bad moves so far this year. Just giving up guys. And I mean, they'll probably throw a bunch of money in Ohtani to try to save the season, which might work. But I don't even know if Ohtani goes to the Yankees.
You know what? That is a question because some people are saying Ohtani isn't going to get traded. They probably should trade him because more than likely he's not staying on the Angels. Rick, do you know who Shohei Ohtani is? Have you heard that name before?
Yes. I know all about it. He is the
Fantastic two-way player.
truth.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now-
no, he's wonderful. Listening to some of this, I just kind of, and I knew that the Yankees have been terrible because I know a lot of Yankees fans at all, and I do sort of keep that on my radar, but I do also kind of feel the same way about this talk, the way I do about, for like, New England fans when they had a down season after years of being the dominant force, with Tom Brady and the Patriots, and things like that. It's like, oh my gosh, the sky is falling. We are having a horrible season. Is baseball, or football or whatever, is it ruined from now on? Like,
We haven't won a championship in 3 years.
and that's why I sort of laugh at whenever I hear like Yankees fans sort of being like, "Oh my God, the sky is." Now teams go through stuff sometimes, and no amount of money sometimes can change that.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, it has been 17 or 14 years, guys. I mean, it's getting a little long in the tooth, honestly.
14 years.
I heard a very interesting. I was watching PTI, and Buster Olney, who's a big baseball columnist, was on it, and he had an interesting take on Shohei Ohtani. He actually thinks that a good trade candidate could be the Rays.
Yeah.
because the Rays do probably the best job with regards to scouting. And imagine Ohtani being on that team, because they definitely would need the bat, and they definitely need the arm too, because their pitching staff has not been the healthiest aside from Shane McClanahan.
Aside from Shane McClanahan.
Where do the Rays stand in sort of standings wise? I know Ohtani wants to go somewhere where he can.
They're in second place right now.
They
and only by a
just
game.
lost. Yeah, they just lost the first place lead. They had first place for a while. They got off to a really hot start, but they've calmed down a little bit because a lot of because of injuries.
They're the Devil Rays. Because they're the Devil Rays, Mark.
Could conceivably spark them back to, a higher level, and I feel like
absolutely.
And that's the sort of thing that I feel like a guy like that needs to go to if he really is concerned about wanting to, because you can't keep up the pace. I feel like you can't keep up the pace that he's on and been on for in perpetuity. Like, this is just so wild this is like the fact that I'm aware of his stats says a lot about his prop and how big he is.
I saw an interesting thing on the interwebs today that Shohei Ohtani is on the same pace, or is at the same point where Babe Ruth was with regards to hitting and pitching.
Poof.
Wow.
Yeah. Scary, mirror image stats after this many games.
Yeah, that's crazy. In Japanese.
Yeah, it's wild to see that they had pictures of the two of them side by side, and you're looking at it and going so you're saying this guy over here, the tubby guy, is really good, and this guy over here looks super athletic had the same stats, and they're both good.
Yeah.
I mean, baseball is very different. I think maybe they played underhand when Babe Ruth played or something.
They did not.
Well, that's like Wayne Gretzky in hockey, when it was you'd look at some of those goalies that would just flop around on the ground, and Wayne Gretzky's like, okay, I'll just score my 50th goal because they can't play and I can.
Personally, I don't think that Rays trade would happen for Ohtani, because Ohtani, I think, wants to remain on the West Coast, because there is a larger, Japanese following on the West Coast than there is on the East Coast.
Okay.
So I'm not 100% sure that he would allow that trade. Although he might not necessarily have a say, but
I mean, maybe even LA to stay on a bigger West Coast market.
Well, I mean, I don't know if Dodgers could really afford him, and they also don't have anyone to trade aside from other superstars.
Right. I don't know how Trout and Ohtani are on the same team. It just boggles my mind. The two best players in baseball on the Angels.
Trout just likes being on the Angels. He doesn't care if they win. I don't know. I don't understand that.
I don't know. So, and for the last part of this topic, it is very interesting that while the Yankees are in last place in the American East, they would have a 1-game lead.
Yeah, they would be the first place team in the AL Central.
In the AL Central.
Yeah,
so most seasons, this ridiculous season, I would not be so frustrated about 3 games over 500, because 3 games over 500 is pretty good.
It's not bad.
It's not bad. The A's and the Royals both have 70-plus losses, which is atrocious.
Wow.
Atrocious.
And yet you guys got shut out by the A's.
Shut your face. Nobody even likes you.
Don't worry. The Red Sox also got shut out by the A's recently.
Yeah, and the Red Sox are second to last in the AL East. When's the last?
We like to look at it as 4th place, Pete.
Okay.
Savannah Bananas. I think Ohtani should
The
shock
Savannah Bananas, yes.
Bananas, and just announce it, hold a press conference and be like, I decided to take my talents to Savannah Bananas.
Johnny Damon convinced me.
Amazing.
I want to see that. That's the baseball story that I want to see develop.
I think we should end on the Savannah Bananas.
Yeah,
How do you top that?
How do you top the Savannah Bananas?
Are you ready, Pete?
Yeah, do your thing.
All right, so that has been our 10 topics. We would like to thank our guests for joining us this week. Thank you, Rick.
Thanks, Rick.
Thanks, Rick.
That was awesome. Rick, do you want to plug anything, or you have nothing to plug just yet?
No, it's fine. You can find me online, in a lot of all different places. If you look up Rick Marshall online, you'll find me in a lot of different places.
We have your Instagram on the in the description.
Yeah, and I'm not the Zodiac Killer, so skip over the
Zodiac
Killer, and you'll eventually get to me. Yeah, that's where you can find me.
Fantastic.
Please follow or like us on our socials, on our YouTube channel, and at If These Balls Pod on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and now Threads. Our website is www.iftheseballscouldstalkpod.com. And this is Mark Pesci for my partner John Companion and producer Pete Steffen. That's what we feel they would say if these balls could talk. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
If these
He always points.